Me and my friends want to create the best game server hoster out there. For that, we found a solution how to pack 1,000 servers onto very little hardware. Hi, my name is Mark and this is the first video on my channel. I want to take you on a journey on how we created this interesting technology for our game server hoster Druid.gg. We started in open beta. We don't charge any money for that open beta. The open beta is still active, by the way, so it's still all free. So if you give all of the game servers away for free, people usually tend to order the most expensive game servers. So let me introduce to what I call the Ark game server problem. Ark is a very interesting game. You can play it with a lot of people, you can get your own dinosaurs, you can build your base, you can have fun with your friends or with strangers. But for one Ark server to exist, it takes up at least 8 gigs of memory and 20 gigs of disk space. So even if you have a server where nobody's online and the server is just existing away, it takes up a lot of disk space and a lot of memory. We don't have any investors or something, so we have to pay it all from our own pocket. So how did we solve that problem? Let's still keep with Ark servers, but the same counts for all the other servers that we support. We not only support Ark, but Rust, Minecraft, and a lot of other different servers, but Ark is by far the one which is the most resource intensive, especially if nobody's playing on them. So let's stick with that, but just keep in mind that this also counts for all the other servers that we support. Visit druid.gg if you want to see a full list, by the way. Let's talk about the memory problem first, because that's the first problem that we tackled. So what's the solution? The solution is pretty simple. Just turn off the server if it's idle. I know it's a pretty easy solution, but still it takes a lot to make that right. So first of all, if you shut down the server, how to start it again? It will not appear in the server browser. And also, how do we even shut it off? So the answer on how to shut down the server is actually pretty easy. We just detect if there are any external connections by any IP address over a certain period, and if not, we shut down the server. After that, we start a small mini server, let's call it, which is able to speak the Ark server protocol, and basically if you connect to that, you can still see it in the server browser. It's not a fully fledged Ark server, but it can answer the server browser query protocol things. We called this technology Coldstarter, because your server is basically cold when you see it in the server browser and it needs to start it up. So this solved the biggest problem at the time for us. We had all these different Ark servers and also other servers, which took up all the memory, and now we could replace them with these mini servers, which don't take any memory at all. I mean, it takes a little bit of memory, of course, but not very much memory. We could increase the amount of servers that we can host at a certain time by, I'm not actually sure, but it must be like 10 to 20x. So this was already a huge win. But it's not the thousands of servers that I promised to you in the beginning, because there was still a second problem: disk space. One Ark server takes up 20 gigs of disk space, and we don't only have one Ark server, we have like 50 at that point. I don't know the exact numbers, it has been some months, I think it's over a year where we found the solution. But we had a bunch of Ark servers at that point, but all of them took up 20 gigs of disk space. To explain to you what's so frustrating, let's compare it to a Minecraft server. So a Minecraft server is pretty small in the beginning. It actually just takes a couple of megabytes and then you're ready to go. And you explore a little bit of the world and the server gets bigger and it gets bigger, but that's fine. I mean, you spend time on the server and it gets bigger and it's also very unique. Compare that to an Ark server. You install an Ark server and the amount of disk space taken by the Ark server rises sharply to 20 gigs. And it more or less stays at 20 gigs because all the assets and stuff like that basically stays the same. So how can we find a smart solution for this problem? We really wrapped our heads around it and it took us quite some time to figure it out. We considered different options, but nothing really worked. Until we found ZFS. ZFS really was the breakthrough that we needed. What is ZFS? Well, ZFS is a very advanced file system and it has a lot of fancy features. One of these features is called deduplication. I don't know if I need to explain what deduplication is, because the solution is basically in the name of the feature. It basically deduplicates all the duplicated file on your server or whatever of a machine you have, and then it basically just creates something like a link. On the file system level, like if you look at the files, you don't even see it, but under the hood it basically works like so. So if you now have one 20 GB Arc server and you have another one, it still only takes up 20 GB of space, which of course is a huge win. We managed to reduce our amount of disk space taken by 75% by that. And I'm not talking only about Arc. I'm saying 75% disk space reduction in total, including all of the other servers. So if you now spawn another Arc server now, it basically does not really add much disk space at all. It just adds a couple of megabytes and that's it. Let's come to a conclusion. What's the result in the end? We had two major problems. The first one was the amount of memory taken, and we solved that with our Coldstarter technology. The second problem was the disk space taken, and we also managed to solve that with ZFS deduplication. We are still in an open beta, but we can now support a lot of game servers, thousands of game servers. Obviously not when everybody's playing at the same time, but that's rarely the case. Many of the game servers will stay idle forever, so this is a huge win. If you want to try it out, just visit the first link in the description or visit druid.gg. All of it is for free, and we would really appreciate if you give it a try and if you leave some feedback on our Discord or in the comments of this YouTube video. Feel free to reach out. I would also really appreciate if you consider liking this video or subscribing to our channel. We have a lot more planned for the future. Also, on a personal note, this is the first YouTube video I have ever created, and it's definitely not perfect. I would really appreciate your feedback, and I will try to improve in the future. Cheers, guys.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.